Okay, Pokemon fans, get ready because today we are diving deep into the biggest Pokemon shakeup maybe ever.
Yeah, it's big. The Game Freak Terra leak since October 12th. Over a terabyte of data has been found online, revealing secrets about the Pokemon world.
A terabyte. That's insane. Like, imagine a mountain of files bigger than anyone can really imagine, filled with early Pokemon designs and notes on scrapped game ideas.
It's like someone opened up the vault at Game Freak and said, "Come look inside."
And we are looking. Where do we even start? I mean, some of these early Pokemon designs are something else. Like, remember Mudkip, that little mudfish Pokemon?
It almost started as a bunny with a floaty. Imagine that, a bunny just paddling around.
Yeah.
It really shows you how much thought goes into designing Pokemon.
It's crazy to see how they change, right? And speaking of changes, let's talk about the future Gen 10 codename Gaia. From what we've seen, it's a huge island-hopping adventure.
Think Pokemon Sun and Moon, but way bigger than that. There's even talk of a region based on the ancient sea islands, ancient ruins, maybe even some Greek mythology.
I am so hyped for that. And of course, we have the two versions, codenamed K and N. Fans are going crazy with theories. K's for wind and Nami for wave are popular guesses. Makes sense for an island-themed game.
Yeah, definitely. Although some fans are suggesting the names might actually be mathematical constants or variables. Like there's a deeper meaning behind the names, maybe even connected to the legendary Pokemon.
Now that's some next-level Pokemon thinking right there.
Ah.
But it gets really interesting here. We know Gen 10 is being made for the Switch 2, codenamed Ounce. Can you believe that? But there are leaks that they're testing a version for the original Switch.
A Switch 1 version. Wow, imagine that. It would be really hard to do technically. But it could also mean that a lot more people could play the new Pokemon games.
That's a tough decision for Game Freak. Do they go all in on the new hardware or try to make everyone happy? Maybe they'll release different versions for each console, like they did with some of the Mystery Dungeon games.
It's possible. It would let them make the games perfect for each console.
And speaking of new games, let's talk about this new multiplayer Pokemon game codenamed Synapse. At first, everyone thought it was a massive online game, an MMO, but thankfully that's not true.
Yeah, thankfully right. Can you imagine? An MMO, it would be pure chaos. Although we don't know much about it yet, some people have said it's like Splatoon, which I think is a really cool idea.
Right. It seems like Game Freak is trying new things and wants to expand the Pokemon world.
It'll be interesting to see how these new games connect to the main Pokemon games and what new things they add.
For sure. But we can't forget about Pokemon Legends. ZA. We got that awesome trailer a while back, but it seems like it might be delayed.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out in 2024, but now it's looking like 2025.
Which might not be a bad thing. After all the problems with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it seems like Game Freak wants to make sure the game is good and runs well this time.
Yeah, taking their time to make a good game will only help them, especially after the mixed reception to Scarlet and Violet.
Definitely. A delayed game is eventually good. A bad game is bad forever.
No.
Plus, the wait might be worth it when you hear about some of the leaks about ZA. We might see Mega Zygarde and Mega Zeraora.
Now that is exciting. It seems like Game Freak wants to connect the games and the Pokemon Horizons anime more. Maybe Mega Zygarde will show up in the anime and the game around the same time.
That's so cool. Imagine watching the anime and then getting to play that same moment in the game. That'd be awesome. But speaking of the anime, the Terra leak also revealed some talks between Game Freak and the anime team about Pokemon Horizons and how it's being developed alongside Gen 10.
It seems like they want to tell one big story across both the games and the anime, which could lead to some cool crossovers and tie-ins.
It's exciting to think about. But we need to talk about one more thing, and it's not so great. The Terra leak also had some really disturbing lore. Stuff that's way darker than we're used to seeing in Pokemon.
Yeah, some of the leaks talk about things like Pokemon cruelty violence and even some weird stuff about the relationships between Pokemon and humans.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff, like that story about the trainer and the Octillery. It makes you think about the dark side of the Pokemon world that we don't usually see.
It reminds you that even in a world with cute creatures and fun adventures, there's always a dark side.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how you would act as a trainer in that world and what kind of impact you would have.
Yeah, it really makes you think about Pokemon differently. Like, we're seeing what's behind all the fun, and it's not always good, you know?
Yeah. Like when you're a kid and you realize your parents aren't perfect, it changes how you see things.
Right. And since we're talking about seeing behind the scenes, the Terra leak also had a ton of music that was cut from the Pokemon games, and some of it is seriously good. There's this one track from Heart Gold and Soul Silver that's really haunting and sad. It would have been perfect for like a hidden safari zone or an underwater city.
See, that's the kind of stuff I love. The what ifs of Pokemon.
Yeah.
like a peek into a different Pokemon universe.
Totally. And speaking of different universes, have you seen some of the early Pokemon designs from the leaks? Some of them are so different from the final Pokemon. Oh yeah, tell me about it. Luxray is a peacock. A peacock. Who would have thought of that?
It's cool to see how they changed the Pokemon from their first ideas. Like, you can see what the designers were thinking.
And sometimes they come up with some really weird stuff, like that scrapped evolution for Hariyama. It was like a sumo wrestler mixed with a crab holding a giant boulder. I mean...
Okay, that one was a little strange. But you gotta give him credit for being creative.
For sure. It just shows that Pokemon is full of surprises.
Speaking of surprises, remember we were talking about how the games and the Pokemon Horizons anime might be connected? Well, there's something in the leak about that. It seems like there was a talk between Game Freak and the anime team about how the current season is already kind of going in a Gaia direction.
Wait, really? So they might be making the anime at the same time as Gen 10?
Sounds like it. It seems like they're trying to make the games and anime feel more connected.
That's awesome. Imagine if they start showing Gen 10 Pokemon in the anime before the games even come out. That would get people so hyped.
It would be a smart move. But not everything was perfect. The leak also said that the anime didn't really fit with the style and themes of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Oh yeah, some fans were saying that the anime felt kind of separate from those games.
Exactly. They learned from that, and now they're trying to make sure the anime and Gen 10 fit together better.
I like the sound of that. The more connected the Pokemon world is, the better.
Speaking of connections, remember how we were talking about the names for the Gen 10 versions K and N, and the theory that they're based on math?
Oh yeah, that was like the nerdiest Pokemon theory I'd ever heard.
Yeah.
But I kind of loved it.
Right. Well, they were talking about maybe not having as much island hopping in the anime. They're worried about something called cannibalization.
Cannibalization? What does that even mean?
It means they're worried that one will be better than the other. Like, if the anime has a lot of island hopping, will it make the game less exciting?
Oh, I get it. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
So what do they do? How do they have Gen 10 in the anime without it being all about island hopping?
Good question. Maybe they'll just focus on one island and explore it really well. Or maybe they'll have a more land-based adventure with just a little bit of island hopping. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But that's what's cool about leaks like this.
Yeah.
They give us so much to think about and talk about.
I know. It's like we're seeing how they make the games even though we're not supposed to. We get to see all the choices they made, the problems they had, and even the ideas that never happened.
And we haven't even talked about everything.
Yeah.
There are leaks about Pokemon designs that got thrown out, early versions of how battles worked, even notes about characters' backstories that never made it into the games. It's like a goldmine of information for Pokemon fans.
Absolutely. It reminds us that there's so much to the Pokemon world, and it's always changing. There's always something new to find.
So where do we go from here? We've talked about a lot, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of this whole Terra leak thing.
I know, right? This leak is like opening a Pandora's box, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens next. Will Game Freak do something about the darker stuff in future games? Will those Pokemon designs ever come back? And will we ever find out what K and N really stand for?
Only time will tell.
Right.
But one thing's for sure, Pokemon will never be the same after this. It's crazy how one leak can change everything we thought we knew about Pokemon.
It's like someone said Mewtwo 3 times in a mirror, and now we're living in the bad ending.
Okay, that's a scary thought.
Mm-hmm.
But seriously, how did this even happen? Who's behind the Terra leak and what are they trying to do?
That's the $1,000,000 question, or should I say the $1,000,000 Poké-dollar question.
Good one.
And it seems like it all started with a phishing attack.
Phishing? You mean someone tricked a Game Freak employee into giving up their password?
Exactly. It looks like someone went after a Nintendo admin. They got into a server with tons of data, not just about Pokemon, but employee info source code, even early versions of games that aren't out yet.
That's insane.
Yeah, it really is. And it shows that even the biggest companies aren't safe from hackers.
It's kind of scary when you think about it. One wrong click and bam, a terabyte of secrets is all over the internet.
And once it's out there, you can't put it back in the box.
Do you think this will change how Game Freak makes games? Will they be more careful about security?
It's hard to say, but it's probably going to cause some waves.
Like dropping a Gyarados into a swimming pool. The whole industry will feel it.
Exactly. And it's not just about security. There's also the issue of trust.
Trust? What do you mean?
Think about it. Game Freak is all about secrets. They love to surprise their fans. This leak just destroyed all that secrecy.
So what now? Will they be more quiet about stuff?
Maybe, but maybe they'll go the other way. Maybe they'll just roll with it and find new ways to surprise us.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. What about you, though? What surprised you the most about all this?
You know what really got me? Those early legendary Pokemon designs, seeing the first ideas for Reshiram, Zikram, Kyurem, it really makes you realize how much work goes into every single Pokemon.
I totally agree. Those sketches were amazing.
It's like you're looking into the minds of the artists, seeing how they think. Even the coolest Pokemon started as just an idea on a page.
Speaking of ideas,
Mm.
is there anything from the leak that you hope Game Freak uses? Maybe a Pokemon or a game idea that never happened?
That multiplayer game Synapse has me hooked. A Pokemon game like Splatoon. I'm there.
Me too. That could have been huge. Who knows? Maybe they're still working on it secretly.
A trainer can dream, right?
Always.
Ah,
This whole thing has been a wild ride. Seeing those early Pokemon designs and then the darker stuff, it's been a lot.
yeah, it's been quite a journey. It reminds us that the Pokemon world is full of surprises. Good and bad.
This Terra leak has changed everything. Will Game Freak keep things light and fun, or will they explore those darker themes we talked about?
Who knows? But one thing's for sure, we're not done talking about Pokemon.
And neither are we. We want to know what surprised you most about this leak and what you hope Game Freak does next. Let us know. We read everything. Until next time, keep training and stay curious.